Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Sorry for keeping you waiting there. I'm here now. It's okay. So big shout out to everyone in the chat. We've got Chris C in the chat. We've got Diz in there. We've got Martin Harrow. We've got Viper Scott and One Angry Pagan. We've got DJ Marcy Moo. We've got Francis Winrow, Colin Baker, and others. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for approximately 1 minute, one of your Earth minutes. Okay, so it is Monday, the 19th of January, 2026. There's been a tragic train crash in Spain. Train traveling from Madrid to Malaga, high speed train, two trains, and it's really grim. And but we're not going to focus on that today. Today we're going to be talking about what Emmanuel Macron calls his trade bazooka. You see, because Emmanuel Macron's about to whip out his trade bazooka and fire it all over everybody. So what is the trade bazooka? It is an anti-coercion instrument, an ACI, which the EU adopted in 2023 in response to economic blackmail by third countries. So in a nutshell, that's what it's about. It's about stopping countries like Russia and China and America blackmailing European member states or the EU itself. It applies when a state threatens tariffs or trade measures to force political concessions, which is exactly what Donald Trump is doing over Greenland. In fact, it's more than political concessions for this. This is territorial concessions. This is demanding that Europe give up some of its territory for Trump for no reason whatsoever, other than the plump up his ego even more, because he wants to be Agamemnon, he wants to be conqueror of fucking worlds or something. I don't know. But how it works is the European Commission investigates whether coercion exists. Unfortunately, this takes like 4 months, so I don't know if we've got that long. Member states can vote by qualified majority. So in this particular instance, we do not need complete consensus between European states, which often happens, like if they want to have a new member join and it'll get, or they want to actually do something about Vladimir Putin, that it tends to get blocked by Hungary, Viktor Orban, and there's a few others now, the European MAGA countries that Trump is trying to cleave off from the rest of Europe. I'm not being funny, right, but I really wish Trump would fuck off. Like, this man is a fucking nightmare, and I think we're all going to dance a fucking happy fucking jig of fucking joy when that motherfucker shuffles off this motherfucking mortal coil. He is fucking scum, and he is creating. He is not just destroying his own country. He is trying to destabilize our countries. This is some other motherfucker from our. And do you know what? Like, well, when I talk about Russia and I say its economy is not so great, but like, it is the biggest country in the world, and for it to turn around and go, oh, it needs to be bigger. It's not big enough. We need a bit of Georgia, which is a tiny country. We need a bit of Ukraine. We need a bit of this. We need a bit of Moldova. We need, and you just look at it going, you're the biggest country in the world. With America, they're the richest country in the world by a fucking mile. Per capita, compared with China, which is number 2. China's got a population of 1.4 billion. America's got a fraction of that, 330 million. It's still a big population. But, like, what's the problem? Have you not got enough money? Is that it? Is that it, Mr. Trump? You don't have enough fucking money. So you got to go around terrorizing people around the world to try and extract raw materials, rare earths, oil out the ground of other countries. You can just fucking buy it. This is like Winona Ryder fucking robbing stuff from the shop. Going shoplift, millionaire going shoplifting. That's what this is. This is, except in this case, it's a billionaire going shoplifting because they get off on it. Sick fucks. Anyway, because today's a swear jar day, it certainly is. Thank you very much, Paul Ewan, for the £2 super chat. In fact, since it's a new week, I will set up the super chat goal, and if successful, we will unleash the confetti on the unsuspecting crowd. Maybe we should replace confetti with a trade bazooka. We'll fire the trade bazooka off. I'll see if I can get an animation to do that. SG basically blaming that he is going to attack Denmark, Greenland because Norway didn't give him the peace prize. Yeah, I saw that. The Prime Minister of Norway. Do you want to have a look? Do you want to have a look at this? I can get it up on the screen if you want. This is how fucking unhinged the gobshite president of probably the most gobshitiest country at the moment in the world. I mean, like, North Korea's fucked, right? But they're not wrecking our economy. They're not wrecking our trading arrangements with the rest of the world. Do you know what I mean? They're not threatening to take over fucking Greenland. They're not threatening to take over parts of the EU. Of NATO. It is absolutely infuriating. And there's still not just Americans defending this gobshite, but there's British people like Tim Stanley of the Telegraph saying we should give the world to Trump, because I love him. It's just fucking bananas. It's absolutely bananas. It's grotesque. So I'll just bring this up now onto the screen. There you go. There it is. So this is the we've got the way going. This is the written to the ambassador of Norway, right? Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus all capitals, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant. But now I can think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot pretend that Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. So why did they have the right of ownership anyway? There were no written documents. The only thing is a boat landed there hundreds of years ago. But we have boats landing there too. I'm so done more for NATO than any other person did its founding. And now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. What a dead set, copper bottomed, 100% cast iron cunt. What the fuck? Leader of America. That's what you got in charge, America. That's who you fucking voted for. A petulant child. A little podgy 12-year-old child with a big lollipop. Fucking child. Fucking baby. All the people who voted for him. Fucking, they're dickheads. That's the problem. We've been too nice to them. They say, we want a war on woke. All right, can we start throwing dickheads in the mental asylums again? Like we used to. The people who are so fucking stupid, they were dangerous to society. Let's fucking lock them up. Let's put them in a fucking back padded cell. Print money on the fucking walls. Let them fucking sit there in a straitjacket biting at the money on the fucking walls. Money! I love money. Fuck them. Let's set up special hospitals for these fucking motherfuckers. Rich idiots. Rich idiot hospital. That's what we used to do. We thought it was immoral and we thought that it was wrong. Actually, I think the Victorians had the right idea, to be honest with you. Look, it's a rich moron. Oh, shit. Nothing more dangerous than a fucking moron with money. Oh, yeah, you're right. Better do something about that. Lock them up. Anyway, so let's get back to the trade bazooka. Come on, tell us about the trade bazooka. So, if approved, this trade bazooka can block US goods and services from the single market, can exclude US firms from public procurement, can restrict investment and licensing, I'll come back to that in a moment, and can suspend or weaken intellectual property protections. Oh! Now that, my friends, is a big one. So let's talk about IP. Let's talk about piracy, okay? Let's talk about sailing on the 7 seas under the Jolly Roger, being a corsair, a buccaneer, a privateer. Just don't say the pirate word. Don't say that one. We've got a letter of marque from King George the First. I can do what the fuck I like. So here's what we have, right? In America, they have a lot of patents. They patently love their patents, and that's fine. Now, a lot of American patents have also got intellectual property rights in Europe. They have registered them in European Central Database to say, this is our patent, this is our trademark, this is our IP, our intellectual property. It could be it could be a Big Mac, it could be a movie, it could be Google, right? And not just like there's not just like one IP, one patent that's been taken out for the running of the Google search engine. There might be hundreds, there might be thousands, right? But a lot of them, while they might be registered in the US, some of them they didn't bother registering in Europe because we had a deal. We had a deal. You respect our IP, we'll respect yours. Okay. So this is a little fucking fleshy spot underneath the fucking behemoth that is the American government or the American economy. You know, this is somewhere where you can just, Bard can bring back his bow. Just that little bit, just under his neck here, just there, yeah, that weak spot. Fucking take him out, Bard. Fucking gold grabbing fucking dragon fuck. So what you can do is basically make your own versions in Europe, and it's up to Europe to go after people who steal IP from America, right? It's up to Europe to do that. Using this trade bazooka, they can choose not to go after people who are cloning Twitter or cloning YouTube or cloning Facebook. Yeah, that can genuinely happen. And usually the person who does it, get caught by the police, get thrown in jail. But if the government make it very clear, the gloves are off, that's going to fuck America. That's really, really, really going to fuck America. Because so many things that they have rely so much on IP. And it's not just, I talk about burgers and movies and computer programs. Think about medicines. Think about the money that have been put into the IP of particular medicines that are allowed, if it's registered in the USA, to, they're the only company allowed to make that medicine for X many years before it becomes generic. You can make it generic tomorrow and just shrug and say, well, we're not going to enforce your IP. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? And they'll say, we'll take you to court. And go, okay. There's a part of me that thinks we should do this anyway. But Ms. Paula Thomas, £5 super chat. A horrible thought occurred to me yesterday. The tech bros want Greenland to build plants to process rare earths, ruining the local environment. Paula Thomas. They want the rare earth. The processing, I doubt, will be done in Greenland. It's going to be difficult enough to get the rare earths out of the ground in Greenland. Never mind processing them, which takes a lot of power, a lot of water. Because of the fact that so much of Greenland is in the Arctic Circle, these plants are going to be affected by the cold in ways that they wouldn't if they were set up in, America. But then it begs the question, why not just set these plants up in America and buy the raw rare earths? They'd be cheaper. You don't even have to buy them from Greenland, where, I know the ice is melting thanks to climate change, which isn't happening, which is a big hoax. But we can go there because the ice is melting. Why is the ice melting? Oh, it just is. Is it not because of climate change? No, that's a big hoax. Okay, but you're suddenly interested in Greenland because the ice is melting and northern sea routes are opening up. Yeah, that's right. But they're opening up because of climate change. No, it's just coincidence. All right. Anyway, the pros are doing this trade bazooka. It hits the US where it hurts. First of all, access to 500 million consumers, relatively wealthy consumers as well. Don't forget, your average European will consume 5 times more American products than your average person from sub-Saharan Africa. This goes far beyond tariffs as well. It goes into services, tech, finance, procurement. It sends a crystal clear message that Europe will not fucking be bullied by America. And the deterrent value alone may force Trump to back down. But there's some cons here. There are risks. It's never been used before, the trade bazooka. It's never been used before. It's legally powerful, but it's politically untested. It requires, EU to come together, and some states like Germany or Italy may fear escalation. It almost certainly would trigger a full trade war, and Trump would frame it domestically as Europe attacking America, which could create some kind of rally round the flag effect, because lies are behind a paywall, and the truth is behind a paywall, and lies are free. Research, political research, not journalistic investigations, scientific papers behind a paywall. Some dickhead's conspiracy theory, completely free. Share, it's free. Share with everyone. And then we've got the one step down, I think, from the trade bazooka, which, I mean, that is the nuclear option. That is really saying to America, fuck all the way off, and we're going to damage you. We are going to cause a lot of damage. What's more likely is retaliatory tariffs, and they're already talking about this today. Pretty much all the newspapers are talking about this, what they call $93 billion retaliation. Sorry, €93 billion retaliation against Trump's Greenland blackmail. And what this means is it would revive and implement tariffs already drafted by the EU. And the aim is, they would aim tariffs at politically sensitive US industries, not random goods, not a blanket like what Trump does. He does a blanket. It's just weird for a trade thing. That's not a trade tariff. It's usually to protect your interests of your farmers or your steel makers or something. That's why you put tariffs on that particular sector, that particular commodity, right? Trump's putting it across the board. That's a sanction. We're being sanctioned. We need to stop talking about them being trade tariffs. They're not. They are sanctions to try and make it so that companies in America are forced to buy stuff from other countries. I don't know, Russia, China, somewhere else other than from countries in Europe. Jack Russell's 4 years as £5 in the Super Chat fund. Thank you. It's my birthday Thursday. Trump's obituary would be very, very, very welcome gift. That would be so good. That would be so good. Oh, it's Keir Starmer doing a press conference. Okay. Okie dokie, my friends. Let's go and have a look at that, shall we? Shall we have a look? Shall we? Do you want to? I mean, his voice kind of annoys me, but come on, let's go over there. Let's see what he's got to say. Over to the BBC. You can see what I see on the BBC. Oh God, I'm going really slow here, aren't I? Watch live. Here we go. Let's be clear.
Greenland matters. And it will matter more as climate change reshapes the Arctic, as sea routes open and strategic competition intensifies. The High North will require greater attention, greater investment, and stronger collective defence. The United States will be central to that effort, and the UK stands ready to contribute fully alongside our allies through NATO. But there is a principle here that cannot be set aside, because it goes to the heart of how stable and trusted international cooperation works. And so any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. That right is fundamental, and we support it. Denmark is a close ally of the United Kingdom and of the United States, a proud NATO member that has stood shoulder to shoulder with us, including at real human cost in recent decades. Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. Nor is it helpful to frame efforts to strengthen Greenland's security as a justification for economic pressure. Such measures hurt British workers, British businesses, and the British economy. And that is why I've been so clear on this issue.
Declare war.
A trade war is in no one's interest.
I know, but let's have one
And
anyway.
my job is always to act in the UK's national interest. That is why yesterday
Oh, my
I
job was
spoke
to
to
so far away.
President Trump, to
Did you?
European leaders,
I'm sorry.
and to the Secretary General of NATO to find a solution rooted in partnership, facts, and mutual respect. Because that
Sir
is
Keir
how
Starmer,
civilized
UK Prime Minister,
shared
addressing the nation following Donald Trump's threat
same is
of
true on
tariffs
other
over Greenland.
in the Middle East. We welcome President Trump's focus on sustaining the ceasefire in Gaza and moving on to phase 2. We are open to participating constructively in such efforts. On Ukraine, I can be brief. We strongly support efforts to bring the killing to an end and secure a ceasefire as soon as possible. We recognise President Trump's role in pushing that process forward. And we will work closely with the United States, Ukraine, and our other allies to apply pressure where it belongs on Putin. Finally, let me say why all this matters so directly to people here at home. In today's world, geopolitics is not something that happens somewhere else. It shapes the cost of energy, the price of food, the security of jobs, and the stability that families rely on to plan their lives. When war drives up fuel prices, it's households who feel it first. When supply chains fracture, it's small businesses and working people who absorb the shock. And when instability grows, it's rarely those with the most power who pay the price. That is why this government's approach is rooted in a simple belief that we must use every tool of government, domestic and international, to fight for the interests of ordinary people. At home, that means active government. It means taking responsibility for economic stability so that inflation is controlled, interest rates come down,
God.
and family budgets are protected.
How can he make this so
It means
boring?
stepping in where markets fail.
I mean, seriously.
Strengthening resilience and ensuring that global shocks do not always land on the same people in the same places, the people least able to withstand them. That's why we've taken action to reduce energy bills, to freeze rail fares and prescription charges.
Oh, God, what's this got to do with anything?
But tackling the cost of living today
What the? Okay,
also means engagement beyond our borders.
what?
It requires shaping the world around us,
Oh, I see. I see why
not
he's connecting
retreating
this.
from it. It requires strong alliances, steady diplomacy, and rules that reduce uncertainty rather than amplify it. That is why our commitment to international law and to alliances founded on trust is not abstract or ideological. It's practical. It's about stability, predictability, and fairness.
Predictability.
The conditions that keep prices
He sounds
down,
like the guy
jobs
from
secure,
Phone Jacker.
and economies
Predictability.
resilient. That is what active government looks like in an age of uncertainty. Steady at home, engaged abroad, and always focused
Boring everyone
on
to death.
protecting the people that we serve. Britain is a pragmatic country. We look for agreement. We believe in partnership. We prefer solutions to slogans. And we will not indulge in commentary and
News to the
gesture
Tory
politics
party and the
that
Refug
harm
party.
the British people. But being pragmatic does not mean being passive. And partnership does not mean abandoning principle. That is why it's important to be clear about who we stand with, what we stand for, and where our interests lie. Now, this is a moment for the whole country to pull together. So I warmly welcome the support we've had with regards to Greenland and the proposed tariffs from the leader of the opposition.
It always makes me laugh when people say pull together.
I thank her for her support. At moments like this, there will always be people who reach for the performative, who think an angry social media post or grandstanding is a substitute for hard work. That's an understandable instinct, but it's not effective. It never has been. It may make politicians
We had the
feel
trade
good,
bazooka.
but it does nothing for working people whose jobs, livelihoods and security rely on the relationships that we build across the world. So to conclude, we will work with our allies in Europe, across NATO and with the United States. We will keep dialogue open. We will defend international law. And we will use the full strength of government at home and abroad to protect the security, living standards and future of the British people. That is the approach I will take as Prime Minister. And that is the responsibility that this moment demands. Thank you.
Wow. Okay.
I'm now going to take some questions.
Do you want to stay for the questions?
And, I've got a fairly extensive list. You'll be pleased to
Oh,
know.
God,
I'm going to
he's got a
start,
list.
with Chris Mason from BBC News.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. This is clearly incredibly difficult. What more in specific terms can you tell us about what you plan to do now? It appears that you're ruling out retaliatory tariffs from the UK. Can you confirm that? And would you consider going to see President Trump face-to-face this week? Thank you.
Well, what I'm going to do now is to focus on our national interest and be absolutely clear that that requires us to be clear about the principles that we apply to a situation like this, in particular that the future of Greenland is for Greenland and the Denmark Kingdom, and that tariffs should not be used against allies in this way. In relation to the escalation, look, a tariff war is in nobody's interests, and we have not got to that stage, and my focus, therefore, is making sure we don't get to that stage, and that's what I'm doing at the moment.
So nothing.
Thank you, Chris. Beth, can I come to you?
Thank you. Prime Minister, many people watching this at home will have been shocked and angry over the weekend that our so-called closest ally is threatening us if we try to stop him illegally annexing Greenland. Is this the most serious crisis in the transatlantic relationship in decades?
Yes.
And how can the US remain our closest ally when it's bullying us like this? And just on tariffs, you say they are completely wrong and it will hurt the British economy.
Yes,
but
it
if
will.
Trump does go ahead, to be clear, are you telling the British people that we will have to take that economic pain? And are you planning retaliatory tariffs if that happens?
Retaliatory tariffs.
Thank you, Beth. And firstly, to underscore your point, this
Nothing's
has been very
off the
badly
table.
received across the United Kingdom. We're allies of the United States, and we work closely with them. And
Thanks,
I'm not
David
surprised
Faulkner,
by
for the super
reaction that's
chat.
been across the United Kingdom, and it is a very serious situation. Our job is to ensure that we find a way forward consistent with our principles and our values and consistent with our national interest. And the US remains a close ally on defence, on security and on intelligence, on nuclear capability. We work very closely with the United States, and we must never lose sight of our national
Fucking
interest.
Stockholm syndrome, this, isn't it?
We must stand up for our values.
Our ally.
We must be clear about the principles that we are applying here, and will continue to do so. On the question of tariffs, a tariff war isn't in anybody's interests, and therefore what I want to do is to avoid a tariff war, because it will be businesses, workers and families across the country that will be hit by a trade war, and therefore I will do as I've set out, which is to engage with our European allies, with President Trump. And Chris, in response to the second part of your question, I spoke to President Trump yesterday, as I think you all know, and I'll no doubt speak to him again in coming days. Continually, our offices talk all the time, but we must find a pragmatic, sensible, sustained way through this that avoids some of the consequences that will be very serious.
Maybe he's just planning on talking Donald Trump to sleep.
Beth,
Maybe that's the plan.
Robert Peston.
Robert Person, ITV.
Peston!
Your entire approach is predicated on the idea that Donald Trump is amenable to reason and respects the rule of law, but it's patently clear that neither of those assumptions are true. So when will you consider some kind of economic retaliation through tariffs? And will you talk to the monarch, to the king, about not going to America to celebrate 250 years since independence?
Well, Robert, this is a serious situation, and as I've said,
Thank you, SG.
threatening tariffs
Yes.
on allies is the
You're
wrong
completely
thing
right.
to do, completely wrong. And a trade war is not in our interests, and therefore my first task is to ensure we don't get to that place, which is what I'm focused on at the moment and will continue to focus on. In relation to wider issues, I don't want to lose sight of the central goal here, which is to avoid the seriousness that a trade war would bring. In relation to your broader point, we do have to remember at all times that it is in our national interest that we continue to work with the Americans when it comes to defence, to security and to intelligence. Our nuclear deterrent is our foremost weapon and deterrent when it comes to securing the safety of everybody in the United Kingdom. It's my primary duty. And that requires us to have a good relationship with the United States. But it doesn't mean, as I said a moment ago, that we pretend we don't have differences. We do have differences. And I've set out some of those differences here this morning in relation to Greenland. Differences of opinion in terms of who should decide the future of Greenland. I'm very clear in my position in that. And differences of opinion on the use of tariffs in a situation like this. And again, I've been very clear saying they're completely wrong. So we apply our values.
I've been very clear.
We seek a solution.
I'm not
that's
even
in our,
focusing on what he's
national
saying. He's so
interest.
boring.
Thank you, Robert. Chris Hope.
Maybe this is our secret weapon. We're going to bore everyone to
GB
death.
News, Prime Minister, Donald Trump says he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace. It's now the moment you must choose between the US and the EU. Is this a fracturing in your special relationship?
Yes.
Firstly,
Yes.
I don't think it's right for us to choose between
Yeah,
the
but you
US
have to.
and Europe. That's not a new position today. That's the position I've consistently held, as have previous governments.
It's unfair to make us choose.
Because we are allies with our European partners and allies with the US. And the strength in being able to keep both those alliances has served us well over the last 80 years. So this is not a moment to sort of choose one between the other. I have argued, and this is not an argument for the first time today, and I've spoken to European allies and leaders about the need for Europe to step up and do more in its own defence and security. I feel that over many years we've not paid enough attention to what we European nations can and should do in our own defence, and this reinforces why it's important that we do that in defence and security. And defence and security these days, of course, includes energy and resilience and cyber, as well as the traditional defence and security. Europe has to step up into that space, and that's an argument I've been leading on and making for a number of months now with our European partners, and will continue to do so. Thank you, Chris. I've got Gary Gibbon from Channel 4. Gary.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You say that Donald Trump remains an ally, but a lot of people would look at his behaviours and say he's not remotely behaving like an ally. Is there anything he could do that would make you think he was no longer an ally? Or is it just unthinkable? Are we totally locked in? And just one other, if I may, some puzzlement that those forces, quite limited military personnel that went to Greenland, that he interpreted that as a hostile act. Do you have any sense that he might have been misinformed about that in entire expedition?
Well, taking the second bit first, if I may, that is one of the things I discussed with President Trump yesterday in relation to
Trying to explain it to him.
Forces which were
I bet he
clearly
fell asleep while he was
there
talking.
to assess and work on risk from the Russians. And so there's real clarity, I hope, about that. In relation to the relationship, we must never lose sight of the fact that on defence, security, intelligence and nuclear capability, we work very closely with our US allies. And it's in our national interest to continue.
By working closely means
so.
we're
doesn't
over
mean
a barrel.
pretending we don't have differences.
They
And I
have
don't
us
think
over a
anybody
barrel.
could suggest I'm pretending we don't have differences. I'm spelling out what those differences are, what our principles and values are, and how we approach them. But we do continue to work with the Americans. The situation in the Middle East is fragile. There is a ceasefire. We need to move to phase 2. We mustn't lose sight of that. In Ukraine, we've been striving for a just and lasting peace for a long time now. We're 4 years into that conflict. It is in our interest to work with others to bring about that just and lasting peace. The last thing we should do is to simply throw all that away and pretend that it doesn't matter anymore. It does matter. But we don't do that by pretending we haven't got differences. We do have differences, and I'm spelling them out here this morning. Thank you very much, Gary. I've got Kitty Donaldson from iNews.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The US Supreme Court is due to rule next week on whether the tariffs are legal for the President to use. Do you think it's worth just biding your time until next week? And secondly, I don't think you answered Robert's question, which was, do you think the King should go to the United States?
The King should go?
I'm not going to comment on the Supreme Court ruling. I think it's due out reasonably soon.
They've got to go against Trump. Come on.
I don't think it would be sensible to simply wait for the court. It's really important that we act now.
Considering we know what they're going to say.
The threat of tariffs, and that's why I spoke to President Trump yesterday and to numerous allies across Europe, many leaders during the course of yesterday afternoon, Secretary General of NATO, and will continue to do so today because it's in all our interests to act swiftly in relation to this matter. Look, in relation to the King and other issues.
Did he answer the question about what it would take for him to turn on Trump?
Pragmatic response here, not the suggestion of others.
Overabundance of caution.
My focus is on what's in the national interest for our country, what is going to best protect workers, families, businesses. And I believe that's the approach that I've set out. Thank you, Kitty. I've got Craig Munro from the Metro.
Okay.
Craig Munro from Metro. You spoke about the cost of living in your speech there. How can you be sure, how can you reassure people that the cost of living will improve in the UK when our economic picture is so reliant on an unreliable ally in an unstable global world?
By taking the approach that I've set out today. Some people appear to make the argument that what happens internationally is irrelevant to the cost of living issues that are faced across this country. I'm well aware that for all the volatility in the world, and we've seen plenty of that in the first few weeks of this year, the issue that is of central concern to families and communities across the country is the cost of living. Wherever you go in the country and ask people what their number one concern is, they will say it's the cost of living, and therefore we have to address it. We address it in a number of ways. Firstly, by taking the measures to stabilise the economy so that inflation coming down, interest rates coming down, and protecting family budgets is crucial to that. By being active where markets fail, stepping in on energy bills, rail fares, prescription charges, etc. But also by working relentlessly on matters that are international, because the
this is definitely the strategy.
Internationally,
just bore us all
what's
to
happening domestically is obvious, it's real, it's probably more direct now than it's been at any time most of us can remember, and therefore it would be to a dereliction of duty on the cost of living not to be engaged on the international stage. Thank you very much, Craig. I've got Jason Groves from the Daily Mail. Jason.
Thanks, PM. Your Danish counterpart says NATO can't survive one member, the biggest, seizing the territory of another. Do you agree with her? And separately, are you willing to join the President's Board of Peace, and are you willing to pay for it?
Well, look, in relation to the Danish Prime Minister, as you would have anticipated, I spoke to her on Saturday night. I spoke to her again yesterday, and made absolutely clear.
Did you talk her to sleep on Saturday night? Is that a service you provide?
Of Greenland and the use of tariffs, and we're completely aligned on those issues. On the question of NATO, it is in all of our interest to make sure that NATO remains strong, and stable. We had a very good NATO summit
Strong and
last
stable.
year, with more members than we've had before, with more unity than many people
Not a great
thought we
term to
would,
use in this
achieve.
situation.
And NATO remains the single most effective and successful military alliance the world has ever known. And so it's in all of our interests to make sure that nothing is done to weaken NATO. On the question of the Board of Peace, look, we're supportive of the measures that are being taken across the Middle East, particularly the ceasefire. I do think we need to press on to phase 2. We've indicated our willingness to play our part, and we will. And on the Board of Peace, we're talking to allies about the terms of the Board of Peace. Thank you very much, Jason. I've got Lizzie Buchan from the Daily Mirror.
Thanks, Prime Minister. The head of the UN says that
Katrina Tam, thank you for the super
US
chat.
thinks its own power matters more than international law. Do you agree? And secondly, if I may, you've repeatedly promised to deliver a Hillsborough law, but the bill was pulled last night. Are you confident you can win back the support of families, and can you guarantee
The bill hasn't been pulled. The amendment
thank you,
has.
Lizzie. Well, look, in relation to your first point, I've put my argument in my way, in my own words, and that's my approach, rather than sort of commentating on what others have said. On Hillsborough, as you know, I care hugely that we get this right, that we right the wrongs for very many families who've been let down, and ensure a better future for families in the future. In relation to the duty of candour, we've been clear that that matters. What we're now trying to do is just make sure we get the balance right when it comes to the application of any principle to the security and intelligence agencies. Obviously, I have to focus on the national interest, my primary duty as Prime Minister, which is to keep this country safe and secure. That is the duty I hold above all other duties, and I take it really seriously, which is why we're just taking time to make sure that we get that balance absolutely right. Thank you
to David Faulkner
Lizzie.
there for the
George
super
Parker
chat.
from the FT. George.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You mentioned in your joint letter the risk of a downward spiral if this issue isn't resolved. I just wondered if you could explain what you meant by that. And linked to that, do you think it's regrettable that the EU is talking about the possibility of serious trade reprisals and therefore risking a trade war?
Firstly, what I meant by the downward spiral is the potential for this to cause huge damage for the UK, whether that's in a trade war or the weakening of alliances. And I do not want to see that happen. That doesn't mean that we put to one side our principles and our values, quite the contrary. We're very clear about what they are, which is why I wanted to have this press conference this morning and to affirm those principles and values that we apply. In relation to the EU, look, firstly, we're coordinating very closely with the EU. I spoke to a number of EU leaders last night. I spoke to Ursula von der Leyen last night and intend to do so again either today or tomorrow, so that we're closely aligned. There's proper unity and coordination in our response. They will decide exactly what they will do next during the course of today and the coming days. But we're working very closely with them, very closely coordinated. And they were among the calls that I was engaged on for most of the day yesterday. Thank you, George. And then can I go to Ben Riley-Smith?
Thanks, Di, for the super chat.
Prime Minister, Donald Trump and his team hint at military action in Greenland. Do you think that's a genuine possibility? And
Yes.
secondly, if I may, you are under pressure from some quarters to increase defence spending quicker than you've already planned in the coming years. You yourself are accepting the threat picture is changing almost weekly now. Would you consider increasing defence spending quicker than planned?
Sorry, the very first bit of your first question, I missed the first
Military action.
Yeah, what's the question there?
Do you think Donald Trump is genuinely considering military
Yes.
action?
Look, I don't, actually.
Really?
I think that this can be resolved and should be resolved through
Okay, I don't think we're going to
calm
learn anything
discussion.
new, and
But
I
with the
also feel
application of
like
principles
I'm
and values that
pissing
I've
off
set
people
out in
who
terms
have
of
come to
science
watch
and
this
future
show this
agreement.
morning by Starmer being so fucking boring. Jesus Christ, that man, he could bore for England. Oh, actually, it's funny I say that because that's literally what he does. So, few. I will turn up at the last minute and then swoop in. Andy, that's insulting to Cartman, says. The camera to the right of the screen is much more interesting, says Mike. Yeah. What, the one that was just filming a street. Okay, so before we go on any further and I get back onto my trade bazooka, which is like so much more fun, like talking about a bazooka. Come on. Jesus Christ. But look, I'll talk about, I'll get back. I'll get back to Starmer in a moment. First of all, just a big shout out and a thank you to all the super chats that came in there with David Faulkner. With 38 Hong Kong dollars, saying Starmer sorely needs an injection of dynamism and charisma. Average folks don't gel with him. I can smell Farage from here. Ooh, that's not a nice smell. Rotten fish and cheese. SG, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. EU has Mercosur FTA to mitigate tariffs. We are in no position to retaliate. Bringing down temperature and trying to hide away from Trump is all we have. Yeah. Absolutely agree. Yvonne has been a member for 13 months. Thank you very much, Yvonne. Starmer needs to end the special relationships. Well, the thing is, this so-called special relationship, you know, it's not that special. It's really not. It's like we call it the special relationship. If you talk to an average Yank, right, and talk to them about the special relationship, they go, "Oh, you mean with Canada?" And you're like, no, with the UK. And they're like, that's nice. Like most of them haven't heard of it. They've never referred to it as they've never referred to it as a special relationship. Because when they think of special relationship, they think of Canada. They do not think of the UK. So yeah. But the problem is, Yvonne and everyone else, as SG pointed out, bringing down the temperature and trying to hide away from Trump is all we have. It's very true. It's very true. We are in a very precarious situation. Who's put us in this precarious position that we are in at the moment? Nigel Farage. He has done this to us. He has put us at the mercy of the goddamn Yanks. And all we can do is sit up and say, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. And try and win a war by boring them to death. That's how you get away with being a traitor. In the case of Farage, he gets paid by the Russians to make us America's bitch, and then they pay people in America to make sure that they elect a president who's completely fucking incapable of stringing together a coherent thought in his head. He's just motivated by malice and revenge and cruelty and subjugation. It's not enough for him to win. Everyone else has to lose. Lose their livelihoods, lose their jobs, lose their partners, in some cases lose their lives. So yeah, we're stuck. We are absolutely stuck. And I hate saying this, but this is all we got. This is all we've got. Because of Brexit. If we were part of the EU, we'll be playing with our trade bazooka as well. But we're not. We don't have 500 million customers that we can say, hey, you're not going to buy this American stuff anymore. We can't do that anymore. We could have done. We were one of the 3 senior members of the EU. We gave it up. We gave it up because Nigel Farage, paid by the fucking Russians, told us to. And we went, all right. In a fraud-referendum, where there was Russian interference, and the Tories, spineless, craven, scumbag Tories, who also took money from the Russians, said, no investigation into this. No investigation into Russian meddling. No, we don't want that. We know that they meddled in the Scottish referendum 2 years earlier. We know that they meddled in the 2015 general election. But we're not even going to look at the referendum. Because we have to respect the will of the British people. Sorry, I said Russian people. It's not even the fucking Russian people. We've got to respect the will of the Russian government. British people. Katrina Tam, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Joining late, even watching at 2 times speed. Starmer sounds boring and slow. Yes, I agree. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 78 Hong Kongian dollars. I think the EU are waiting for the next soulless US Democrat to get elected so they can go back to enjoying the illusion of equal partnership with the US. Europe needs to ask itself some hard questions re future. I think they are, mate. David, I really do think that this is the point where Europe is realizing that it cannot rely on America. It is an unreliable partner. And the issue is, and it is very tempting for us to go, if it was me, I'd just tell them to fuck off. Yeah, but that will plunge thousands of British children into poverty, even more so than they are now. You know, like any economic downturn hurts the poorest in society more than the richest. And what good will it do? It might make us feel better, but, you know, facts don't care about your feelings, unfortunately, as the right wing keep telling us. Di Stanton, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. The toddler-in-chief effectively said last night that Greenland was revenge for not getting the Peace Prize. The idiot thinks Northern Europe is one country. Yes, he does, and he's a fucking idiot. He's not the smartest, and he's clearly got dementia. Botocracy, says Annie Burns. Is that why people just fucking inject poison into their face to make themselves look younger? Very true, Graham. Plus, we need to rejoin. We do need to rejoin. We need to rejoin the EU sooner rather than later. In some fucked up way, Trump is doing us a favour here because it's we should have left the thrall of America a long time ago. They have been taking the piss for so long. You know, then when Trump says, "Oh, you got to spend more on your defense. You got to spend more." Why? Who are we at war with? Oh, you got to spend more on your defense. Okay, well, all right. Where do you spend this money? Oh, you have to buy our arms. So who's telling him to say that? Do you think that it's like he really cares about the sovereignty and defense of Europe? No, he doesn't give a fuck. He's the one who keeps taking armaments away from Ukraine. He's the one who tried to get a quid pro quo arrangement with Volodymyr Zelensky to say, this has been his first term. You sort me out with some dirt on my political rival, and I'll allow that humanitarian aid into your country. Something he wasn't allowed to do, something that he was impeached for. Unfortunately, America is set up so ridiculously badly. Like, the whole setup of America politically is a joke. It's a sick joke. It is just appalling the way they've set it up based on a scrap of paper from the 1700s, and they're trying to run a 21st century democracy on it with the internet and germ theory and guns, semi-automatics. Just, yeah. At least we know where Ofcom learned to send a strongly worded letter to X from. Yeah. Honestly, I find Starmer no less boring than David Attenborough, and I've grown up with everyone telling me how boring Attenborough apparently is. Attenborough? David Attenborough? Boring? No. What are you talking about? Wow. You need to get better mates. People have said that he's... I don't mind boring as long as there's some principled stance behind it. Starmer only ever says it's complicated and we're going to have a meeting about it, says Mike. Yeah. But in a way, he kind of has to. It would be nice for him to take a principled stance, but we don't have the firepower to do that. We were a great nation once, 10 years ago, and then we voted to leave the EU and we stopped being a great nation at that point. That was the end of the British Empire as far as, you know, our power over other countries was concerned. As soon as we did that, it was over. We were no longer a gateway to Europe. We were no longer a bridge between the Commonwealth and the EU. We left. We said we don't want to. It's okay. We can stand on our own 2 feet. A country that has not been able to produce enough food for the people who live on this island for over 200 years. Yeah, we're going to stand on our own 2 feet. A country that needs to import energy from all over the world just to keep the lights on. Yeah, let's stand on our own 2 feet. A country that is absolutely beholden to America in order to launch our fucking nuclear weapons. Yeah, stand on our own 2 feet. Look at us standing on our own 2 feet. This is what standing on your own 2 feet looks like. Fucking sitting in a fucking bus shelter, soaked through to the skin, homeless, no fucking shoes. That's where we are. That's where Brexit has brought us. That's where all these gobshites who are going over to the Tory part, the refuck party, Reformers, Tories in disguise. Off they go. Off you fuck. To the refuckers. That's what they told us to do. Told us to leave the EU and be stronger than ever. Nigel Farage, the leader of that fucking toxic blob of people called refuck. Yeah, let's impose economic sanctions on ourselves. That'll show them. People with toxically stupid, simplistic answers to incredibly complex questions. Snake oil salesman to a man. And the most galling thing about this is all these fucking pricks, all these dead set cunts, from Trump to Farage to Boris Johnson and everyone in between, were born rich. They don't need to do any of this. They don't need a job. They can just sit there on the couch playing PlayStation all day. They're rich. They come from ancestral wealth. They won when they were born. They won the life lottery. And what did they do with it? It wasn't enough for them to win. Everybody else, us, we had to lose. And fuck me, have we lost. We lost so badly. And now we're scrambling around for things that we can do to get Trump to not invade fucking Greenland. Not invade a part of Denmark, a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark. One of our oldest allies. You know that Denmark and America have had a treaty for, like, what was it, 225 years, is it? Been allies that long. And now Trump's like, oh, fuck that. What's more important to Trump? Greenland or NATO? Greenland. How mad is that? Fucking few acres of snow. At least with snake oil salesmen, you get snake oil, says Ernie Burns. Yeah, you're right. This isn't even snake oil. It's just, it's fucking liquid polonium in a jar. To be fair, I used to sit on my desk playing PlayStation games, says Martin Howard. I think that was your job, wasn't it? Problem is, we're standing on the beach with our backs to the sea and saying we are a big country, but if you turn around, we can see how small we are. Yeah, but I mean, geographically, we might be small, but we had an outsized influence on the world. We really did. Like, you go anywhere in the world and there'll be some element of Britain there in a way that there isn't an element of Tonga anywhere else apart from Tonga, pretty much, unless there's a travelling exhibition in a museum somewhere. You know, we did have an outsized influence for good or ill. I mean, you know, mostly ill, but that was there, and we gave it up. We gave it up, and Nigel Farage is still a political force to be reckoned with. Fuck off. What is wrong with people? How many times do they have to be fucking just have their intelligence insulted in such a way that is anything that comes out of Nigel Farage's mouth? Resloy, £2.50. EU is so bad, everyone wants to leave. No, there's about 8 countries that want to fucking join. Iceland, the latest one. Iceland's having a referendum next year to join the EU. Moldova wants to join. Moldova might join up with Romania in order to fucking join. Ukraine desperately wants to join. Why did Russia invade Georgia in 2008? Because Georgia was saying that they wanted to join NATO and they wanted to join the EU. Two things that Vladimir Putin was not going to allow. So he went into someone else's sovereign country in violation of treaties, several treaties that the Russians had signed after the breakup of the Soviet Union, to say that these countries, the 15 countries that replaced the Soviet Union, their borders and their territory that was sovereign. They lied. And then you get these mealy-mouthed apologists for the fucking Russians, the war machine, you know, the rape and torture machine, the child kidnap, child abuse scheme machine. You get apologists going, oh yeah, but we said that NATO wouldn't expand. Where did we fucking say that? All the contract, mate. Not worth the paper it's written on. If you remember that advert from when you used to go to the cinema as a kid. Did we have a meeting? Did we flesh that out? Show me the document. Show me the document that all the NATO countries signed that said to smooth over the ego of the Russians and their failed state, we would not expand NATO. Doesn't exist. I mean, we didn't want to, but we didn't think we'd have to. But then along comes Russia, acting aggressively, attacking its neighbours, attacking Chechnya, attacking Dagestan. What do you want us to do? No, why aren't you sitting there on your hands doing nothing? It's like in lead up to World War II, we're building fucking bombers. Right, and you got these people going, oh, why are we building bombers? That's just going to upset Hitler. Yeah? We're defending ourselves, aren't we? Yeah, but we don't want to defend ourselves. That might upset Hitler. Okay, so what's your plan? Well, I think we should build no planes, build no radar systems. I think we should just basically give all the military money away to, I don't know, Hitler. Unbelievable. And these fuckers have got so much sway over people. It's horrific. It's fucking horrific. Now, look, that thing with Starmer, I don't know if you're listening to it. I was only half listening because it was so fucking boring. But at least he didn't hand over territory. You know, we can say, oh, he's like a modern day Chamberlain, but it's not like he went, here you go, have some fucking, you can have it. You can have Greenland. It's a price worth paying. At least Starmer, give him a little tiny bit of credit. He has said, no, you're not getting Greenland. It's not going to happen. It's completely wrong. How many times did he say it was completely wrong? It's completely wrong. Hello, Roger. What do you have to say about this? It's completely wrong. Thanks, Roger. Bye. Anyway, so insurrection. The Insurrection Act. Anyway, so we were talking about what Europe and the UK can do in order to fight off Trump and his mad plans to take over Greenland. So first of all, I was talking about the trade bazooka, which is the anti-coercion instrument, the ACI, that was adopted by the EU a couple of years ago. There's that, which is that is legendary. That is brilliant. If they do bring that in, then America's in all kinds of fucking trouble, right? Then there's also the retaliatory tariffs, which I mentioned. Revive and implement these tariffs that have already been drafted by the EU after last year's fucking nonsense. Actually, these were brought in by the EU. These were drafted when we were still part of the EU during Trump's first term in office. The aim was to go after particular things. So when they first did this, they didn't just put it on as a blanket, 15% on everything. They targeted stuff like Harley Davidsons and Jack Daniels. They actually went after Republican states and what they produce and put tariffs on them, targeted tariffs. And it was quite a clever way of fucking him over. You're talking about bourbon, soybeans, poultry, aircraft components, industries concentrated in these red states, and high visibility consumer goods, which were targeted to drive political backlash. And it fucking worked. It worked the first time. It might work again. It's simple, it's familiar, it's quite legally straightforward, unlike doing the trade bazooka, which is a bit more complex and hasn't been tried before. Immediate economic pain for US producers creates pressure ahead of US midterm elections later this year. And it's an easier sell politically than the trade bazooka, the ACI. But it's less powerful than the ACI. And tit for tat escalation is almost guaranteed. So we put tariffs on him. He'll say, all right, I'm going to put it up to 50%. I'm going to put it up to 100%, like what he did with China. The costs will also be passed on to European consumers because we put tariffs on stuff. It's us that pay that. It's a tax on us, on imports. That's what it is. To make imports less attractive and to not have imports destroy a domestic industry. And Trump, if you talk about his rhetoric, so to speak, he's rambling. His sundowning. He relies on these trade wars. These tariff wars are like bread and butter to him. We put on tariffs on American stuff. He can go, look what the retaliators. I got a rise out of them, like what bullies do. Member for 12 months. SG, well done for being a member for 12 months, my friend. Starmer has to link our impotence back to Brexit. Yeah, on every opportunity. If you're part of the EU, we could tell them to fuck off, but we're not part of the EU. Whose fault is that? And everyone looks at Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, who after he won the referendum, right, thumbs up at the pound going down, and then he fucked off on holiday. No one saw him for months and months afterwards. Just fucked off. Didn't want to have to fucking deal with it. Bastard. Coward. Cowardly fucking bastard. God, when his big, beautiful day comes, I'm going to be so fucking happy. I'm going to be so fucking happy. Oh, no. And my other issue is with these people, I know this is quite shallow, is they're so fucking ugly. I don't want to see Farage's face. It's like a fucking melted welly. I don't want to see Trump's face. It's disgusting. It's like butter that's fucking turned. He's fucking horrible. He looks rancid. He looks ill. He looks unwell. He looks like he's got the fucking plague. Get away from me, you fucking freak. He looks like Jabba the Hutt needs to go to the fucking gym. You know. Jesus Christ. Anyway, look. Another option we've got is financial pressure. And we talked about this before. European governments, pension funds and institutions hold trillions, with a T, trillions in US assets. Coordinated rebalancing away from US treasuries and the dollar could be really, really fucking effective. The second biggest owner of debt, of US debt in the world after Japan is the UK. It's about $800 billion worth of debt that we have bought from America, right? How much debt of ours have they bought? Zero. They can't retaliate on this particular one. The issue is here, though, that a lot of that debt is held by private financial industries, right? Financial companies. It's not necessarily owned by our government. So the implementation of this might be a little bit difficult. But the US depends on foreign capital to fund its deficits. A rising treasury yield would mean higher borrowing costs, inflation pain at home. We do this coordinated in May when Trump puts his own person in the Fed who's going to lower interest rates, which will cause inflation. You know, but the thing is here, even small moves can spook the markets, because I've spoken about this before. The markets go up and down, go crazy all the time. They're like a bunch of fucking chickens in the coop. You know, they see something that they don't like the look of, and they all run off the other way, right? The bond market's different, right? That is why when you're looking at how a country's doing economically, it's worth looking at the bond market rather than looking at the stock market, because the stock market is up and down fucking crazy every fucking day, whereas the bond market is looking to the future. It's looking to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years into the future, what life's going to be. They're taking a bet on the fact that their bonds are going to be worth more in the future. If they think their bonds are going to be worth less, they fucking sell them. Or just don't buy them in the first place. And this is Trump's biggest vulnerability. Markets, inflation. This is people going to the shop and seeing that eggs are $10 for a dozen. He doesn't need to make dramatic public announcements because we don't need to make these dramatic public announcements. We don't need to tell Trump to fuck off. You know, this Love Actually fantasy that we all have. We don't need to do that because the Americans will see it when they go to the shop and they can't buy as much food. And so they'll have to actually eat it rather than throw half of it away, which is what Americans do. And it's going to be extremely hard for the US to retaliate against us financially in the same way. Because, like I say, they don't have any of our debt. It's not held by America, or in America. I should say, because their debt isn't held by Britain, it's held in Britain. But it's $800 billion here. In the Cayman Islands, it's $400 billion. It might actually be more than that. Don't forget, the Cayman Islands, it is semi-autonomous, whatever. Still British territory, mate. Still a British territory. Anyway, the risks here is the financial instability cuts both ways. If America, if its economy is failing, is stuttering, is going into the fucking red, it will affect us as well. In the same way that when those toxic assets that they had in 2008, the credit crunch, when that all fell apart in America, it affected us in the UK, and we had to run on the banks here in the UK as a result. But that started in America. This also would require coordination across European states and also discipline, and it's easily it's easier to do this quietly rather than announce it. It's a less visible win. We're not going to get that moment where we're like, Starmer stands up and he gets some fucking charisma and he says, "I say to you, America, fuck you in the ass." He's not going to say that, especially not in an American accent, because that would be weird. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So he's not going to get any kind of political bounce from doing it, but it would be quite a sweet, insidious way of fucking America. Sell the bonds. Just start selling the bonds. Not all of them, just sell enough of them to fuck them over. And then we've also got the tech pressure. And I said I was going to come back to this. Tech and AI. This is wrapped up with the bazooka, okay? Because if we can just not arrest people for stealing IP from America, it's not our IP. Who gives a fuck? If Americans want to come over here and arrest people, put in an application for people to be deported for breaking their laws in our countries. Good luck with that. Time to fuck off. It's our choice whether we hand people over or not. So what Europe controls is the enforcement of the EU digital laws, GDPR, DMA, and the DSA. There's critical choke points. These represent critical choke points in global supply chains. And we have strict enforcement against US big tech platforms. Well, we could make them stricter. We can make them so much stricter. We can make them dance to our tune. Because if they're going to operate in our territories, then we get to choose what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. We could restrict data. We could restrict access to data from European data. That includes the UK for AI training. That's going to fuck them. And we can put export controls on critical tech equipment. And as I've spoken to you about this before, don't forget, in the Netherlands, in the nether regions of Europe, there is a place that makes the only machines that can make the top-end chips that allow AI to be a thing. And if the EU says, we're not going to sell any more of these things to anyone else but ourselves, they can do that. They've already said they're not selling it to China under pressure from the US. We have one company in one country in the world that can make these machines because they are so complex and they are covered in 1,000 million different fucking patents. So difficult to get that out of the Netherlands. So good luck. Good luck, America. The pros on this is AI and tech are central to the US economic growth. There was no growth in the US economy last year, apart from the growth in tech. That was it in AI. AI made all of the gains in the stock market last year. It was 100% AI. It was nothing else. It wasn't the cars they sell. It wasn't the fucking farm machinery parts. It wasn't like, it was AI, tech, chips. And Trump's coalition is split on big tech as well. This could be politically explosive for that lot because they are putting all their eggs in one basket. And we could also look at things like banning cryptocurrencies. Just banning them. I think they should be banned anyway. Just full stop. They're a fucking con. I'm sick and tired of seeing stories about pensioners being diddled out of their fucking life savings by some crypto scammers. Every time I hear crypto, I just think scam. The whole thing's a fucking scam that pays for drug dealers and people smugglers and wars and criminals and terrorist gangs. If you want to give money to a terrorist operation anywhere in the world, crypto's the way to go. Crypto is Russia's friend. If it wasn't for crypto, they would be getting no money at all. They'd be fucked. Because America's put all these sanctions on them. Europe's put all these sanctions on them. But how they get their money out or in? Through crypto. And then the fuckers who set up these crypto exchanges, like that motherfucker who just gave 9 million to the refuck party from Thailand, they can give 9 million. They can give 9 million to British parties, British fascist parties, like that fascist gobshite, bollock-faced fucking moron, Nigel Farage, the racist, fascist, bollock-faced foghorn of ignorance, that nicotine-stained man-frog, that disgusting, vile human being fucking dog end of the aristocracy. You know, just this disgusting fucking blob of a man. He's fucking disgrace. He is a disgrace, not just to this country, but to humans. He's horrible. He's absolutely horrible. He's the worst of all of us. The worst impulses, the worst ideas. But of course, you know, he's on our side. You know, people honestly think that. People live around here in a working class, former pit village in County Durham. They believe that Nigel Farage is on their side. How fucking Jesus! What can you do? What can you do when confronted with such brutal stupidity? I don't know. The first thing I would do though is ban cryptocurrencies. Simple as that. Especially people who run cryptocurrency exchanges who then give £9 million fucking pounds, the biggest ever donation in history to a British political party from a living donor. Yeah, I'd stop that. But yeah, another pro about getting frisky on the old rules on AI and tech that we are going to set out in Europe, across Europe. We can do this, you know, the EU can do this. Britain can copy and paste if they want into our own laws. It means that we act, Europe as a whole can act within its own legal framework. We don't have to do something new. We don't have to get the trade bazooka out necessarily. However, if we try and do this, tech firms will lobby ferociously. Some EU states fear retaliation against their own digital sectors. But and this will require political courage, which is something that we've not really seen in Brussels or in London for quite some time. I would like some political courage, but we'll have to see. There's another thing that we can do to do with procurement and defence purchasing. Europe buys tens of billions of US weapons and defence systems every year. The government can redirect contracts towards European suppliers. I think we should be doing this anyway. The US defence exports are politically sensitive. This signals a reduced dependency on Washington. It strengthens European defence industry, long-term strategic autonomy, and uncoupling ourselves from America, which we're going to have to do. We're going to have to do. We can't just hope that the Democrats come along in a few years' time and then everything changes, because it doesn't work like that, you know? We're still going to be in the thrall of America. We're still going to be under the thumb of America, being squished down, you know, like a small child torturing an insect. That's going to be our future if we don't uncouple, because Trump's there now, and he's not going to last forever. He will be gone at some point. Someone else, some other motherfucker will take his place. And we might have some years of relative peace and normality. But at some point, because of the way America is set up, because they give the president so much fucking power, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? They're going to get another one. They're going to get another one. It won't be quite as bad as Trump, maybe. He might be quite not as horrific as Trump. But the guardrails are never going to be there, because the American political system is fucked. Unless they have a complete revolution and burn that fucking constitution, burn that piece of shit fucking paper, wipe their arse on it and fucking burn it. The fucking constitution that is shite. It's just absolute fucking shite. Doesn't give anyone any rights except the right to be shot dead in school. Yeah, thanks for that, constitution. Piece of shit. They said they didn't want a king. So instead, they got an elected king. That could be anyone, as long as they had enough money. You know, they came from a rich family, they came from the aristocracy. They picked someone. They would allow the plebs to pick someone from the aristocracy, from the American aristocracy, to be their king for 4 years, 8 years. And unlike the British king or queen, who hasn't been allowed to override the will of Parliament for over 300 years. 300 years. I think the last time, off the top of my head, that the British monarch overrode the will of Parliament was 1708, the Scottish Militia Act. Or it was an act about the fucking setting up of the postal service. Yeah, 300 years ago. Meanwhile, in America, they don't have a king. They have a god emperor who can do whatever he fucking likes. and they're so fucking in love. You know, they're told to swear allegiance to the flag, and they're told to swear on the Bible to uphold this fucking constitution, this piece of shit constitution. It's so embedded in them that this is the best way you can possibly run a country. It doesn't ever occur to them that it might not be a good idea to give someone with the power of a king all that extra power that not even a king has. That not even a king has that much power. They've got even more power. But it's all right. You know, the checks and balances. There's a gentleman's agreement, you know. Shame will keep them in place. What if you get someone with no shame? What if you get someone who's pure loathing and ego? What do you do then? You're fucked, aren't you? And that's why America is fucking fucked. Because the money men, the tech bros, taken over. These fascist little sketchy fucking weirdos taking over America, and there's nothing legally that the American people can do about it, because this is the system they created. Katrina, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Trump's regime has done generational damage to the US, the full effects of which won't be fully seen for years. Yep. But, I mean, some good might come of it. Maybe they will get rid of their shit constitution and go, this isn't the best way to do it. Let's have a parliamentary system. Let's have a parliamentary-led system. The president is just a ceremonial figure who goes around opening supermarkets. Instead of, declaring tariffs, declaring war, murdering innocent civilians on the streets of America, shooting them in the face, detaining people without any due process, deporting people to El Salvador without any due process, kidnapping the leader of another country, all these things. Let's let him do that. I tell you what, let's not let him do that. Let's put Parliament in charge, and then everyone has to take responsibility. And when it fucks up, we can get rid of them really easily because we have a fucking election whenever we want to have a fucking election. Anyway, I was talking about defence procurement, and yeah, we need to do this because it strengthens Europe's defence industry, and it allows for long-term strategic autonomy. And also, Trump hates losing arms sales. This is like a subject very close to his heart. The cold, dead lump of coal that is his heart. I really hope it stops beating very soon. But the issue with doing this, it's slow. It's not something that has an immediate impact like tariffs, or financial instruments like selling off some bonds, a lot of bonds, a few $1 billion of bonds. And some systems have no immediate European alternative at the moment. And this raises awkward questions inside NATO as well. But if you think about it, that's a bit shit, clearly. But at the same time, is NATO really a thing? Trump has got the choice now, Greenland or NATO. And it looks like he's choosing Greenland. And then we've got military. We've got military and strategic leverage. This is quiet, but this is quite serious, right? And this is what's being discussed privately. At the moment, there are hundreds of bases filled with thousands of Americans all over Europe. All over Europe, American bases. We have American bases here. They have American bases in Germany. They have American bases down in Romania, okay? If we decide that we don't want these bases, it is in our sovereign right to tell the Yanks to go home. Yankee, go home. We can do that. We could have 250,000 US troops being sent, deported if necessary, out of Europe. We don't want you here anymore. Goodbye. Does America have enough housing and food for 250,000 troops landing on its doorstep? I don't think it does. But there you go. That's something we could do. But this would, the thing is with the bases that are here, the US's ability to respond to any threat anywhere in the world depends heavily on the bases that are in Europe. So if we say, well, we're going to restrict access, we're going to condition US access to European bases and infrastructure, well, what are they going to do? What can they do? You know? Because it would mean that US power projection into Africa and the Middle East, which depends on Europe, would be taken away. And this would be enormous leverage without firing a shot. Make it very clear that this alliance is not a one-way street. If America is going to choose taking Greenland over its membership of NATO, which Trump has said many times he doesn't like NATO, okay, fine. Off you pop. Off you jolly well fuck. Get out of our countries. We don't want you here. And this would force Congress to confront Trump's recklessness. I'd like to say it would force the Pentagon to do that, but the Pentagon's run by some tattooed rapist twat from GB News America, Fox News as they call it over there, who, has a makeup parlor set up in fucking the Pentagon. He renamed the Department of Defense Department of War because he's 12. Why do all these people who support these motherfuckers just like, why do they do what a 12-year-old tells them to do? Isn't that embarrassing? Isn't that demeaning? Don't they ever think like, why am I letting a 12-year-old? Why am I letting a 12-year-old tell me what to do? Why am I following a 12-year-old around? But obviously there is a risk to this. It could lead to escalation. We would be telling armed Americans to get the fuck off our land. It could weaken the collective defense in the short term. And it's the end of NATO. But I think that's inevitable now with Trump anyway. So there's another thing we can do. We can invest in Greenland, which is something that Denmark's sort of looking into. With the EU exceeding the Danish subsidies to Greenland, long-term investment in jobs and services, something that Denmark should have done years ago. So accelerate it. Trump's pitch is money and power. He's literally trying to bribe the people of Greenland. He's trying to bribe the people of Greenland to join America. And they're like, no, fuck off. But at some point, when he starts offering each and every person who lives in Greenland, there's only 60,000 of them, $1 million each, are you all going to turn it down? Europe can offer stability, autonomy, and social protection. And this is a positive, constructive alternative to coercion. It strengthens ties with the Greenlandic society, which I totally think we should do. Greenland should get its independence at some point and should be part of the EU. And this avoids immediate escalation, but it's a slow impact. It requires sustained funding, and it doesn't stop Trump's threats on its own. Now, what can the UK do? So we talked a lot about Europe in this. Well, first of all, we can publicly back Danish and EU sovereignty and Greenlandish sovereignty, which we've done. We can also align sanctions and tariffs and tech regulations with Brussels, which is, like I said, copy and paste. Just copy and paste. We can restrict US access to UK bases if we feel our sovereignty is being threatened. And we can use our intelligence and diplomatic weight within NATO, withholding of intelligence, something that we've already done in the Caribbean because Trump was using our intelligence in order to just murder people willy-nilly without any crime or reason in the southern Caribbean Sea. And this would reassert Britain as a serious European actor, a force to be reckoned with, that demonstrates independence from Washington. We're not Trump's poodle. And it would be politically popular with people, because people in this country fucking hate Trump. And they're sick of the US bully boy Trumpisms, And this could be, something that we can all get behind. The vast majority of people in this country who aren't fucking psychopaths. We could get behind this. Although you'll always have Tim Stanley saying, please come and invade us, Trump. I want to be the 51st state. I love this country so much. I want another country to rule us. I want to be a tiny minnow in a huge ocean that is America. That's what he said. And Tim Stanley also stood up for Brexit. Thinks Brexit was brilliant idea. He hated being a senior partner in the most successful trading union in the world. What he wants to be is a junior partner in an autocracy from thousands of miles away. Brilliant. But we are exposed because of Brexit. As I mentioned earlier, we're fucked because of Brexit in a lot of this. It's stuff that we would like Starman to say. He can't fucking say it. Can't even say it in a charismatic way. If he could muster up some riz, she can't. But also, you've got the US retaliation, which we have to worry about because it will make people poorer in this country. And we're already gone through shit. This is 2026. We should all be rich. Or relatively rich, you know? We should all be well off. We should have a fucking UBI. Can't believe in this country we don't have a fucking UBI. We do it for old people who aren't even fucking working. Let's have a UBI for workers. Anyone who's working gets UBI. I'm going to drive down wages. Companies will not have to pay so much because we've got a UBI. But then again, you don't have to work. So companies will have to pay somewhere for the good jobs. They'll have to pay top dollar because otherwise people go, oh, I can just sit here and not work. I think it's a secret, ladies and gentlemen. We do pay UBI at the moment in the form of the state pension. The state pension is given to everyone. Everyone. No matter how many millions or billions you've got in the bank, there are billionaires in this country who are getting money from the government each week in their state pension. And they're billionaires. In Australia, your pension is means tested. Yeah? You don't get it if you've got your state pension. You don't get it if you've got a massive private pension that pays you £1 million a year. Because you don't need it. So, as people are getting older, it's more and more people got to be retired. Fewer people coming on to, young people coming to replace them. We can have more kids, which people don't want to do because it's too expensive to have kids. Or we can have more immigrants coming over from other countries. We don't want either. We don't want to do either of those things. So what are we going to do? Get rid of the triple lock. Means test pensions. And then the people who need it, fucking double it. Fucking double the pension for people who need it. People who don't need it, don't give them the pension. Simple as that. I know that sounds like a very simplistic solution to a complex problem. But sometimes when you look at another country and go, oh, that's how you do it, maybe we could do that as well. But unfortunately, the older generation are not all boomers. Not all boomers. Not all boomers. The older generation will vote en masse you out of power if you dare touch their pensions, even if they are millionaires who can easily live off their private pension, the gold-plated final salary pension that they got from working in a bank for 2 years in the 1970s. Yeah, we're fucked. The rest of us. Anyone who's not a pensioner at the moment, I'm not a millionaire. Yeah, let's give the people who need it more money. Let's the people who don't need it no money. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Fairness. So then, finally, I just want to talk about the strategic reality check here. Trump understands power. He understands strength, not appeasement. Doesn't give a shit about appeasement. Every concession teaches him that his coercion, his psychotic coercion works. Europe's problem isn't leverage necessarily. I've just laid out all the levers we can pull. That's our leverage. But our problem is hesitation and bad actors within Europe, like Orban, who try and block anything that Europe wants to do. So, what can we do moving forward? Well, if Greenland falls to blackmail, then then European sovereignty of any country is safe in Europe. And these tools exist, and the costs of actions, the cost of this action is real, but the cost of inaction is going to be even more. It's pain today or more pain tomorrow. That's it. There are options. But if Europe, and that includes the UK, because we're part of Europe, doesn't draw the line here now, then it never will. And Trump will continue to bully us and demean us and make fun of us and tell us that we're not worthy somehow, belittling our achievements. You talk to Americans, they think they invented everything. They think they invented the modern world. When they find out that no dickhead, you didn't invent the trains. You didn't discover gravity or radiation. You didn't do this stuff. That was done by people in Europe, mate. Sorry, but it fucking was. Didn't invent the bicycle. Didn't invent the internal combustion engine. It was a European who did that. Didn't invent the telephone. It was Alexander Graham Bell, fucking Scotsman. Fuck off. Anyway, Ivan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. National political editors are so rude. They keep ignoring me about my autism campaigning. Lizzie Buchanan of the Mirror, Pippa Carrera of the Guardian, both are not good enough. I'm sorry they're ignoring you, mate. That's a bit shit, but yeah. I really despair about the journalism that we have in this country. because the people who are putting out propaganda for the Russians and the Saudis and the oil manufacturers, the oil oligarchs, I mean, they get a free rein, don't they? They get absolute free rein. They can put out lost leaders. Like GB News just lost money all the time. Lost millions, like all the time. All it was doing was losing money, hand over fist. And then, some dickhead comes along and goes, "Oh, it's all right. It's all right. I got you. we'll pay." The dad of the banjo player from Mumford and Sons goes, "It's all right. I'll give you as much money as you need. You don't have to make a profit. Just tell lies. Just tell lies." It's a propaganda machine. A lot of these newspapers, they don't make a profit. It's just they don't make a profit, and these owners, they don't have them to make money. They know they're lost leaders, but they can manipulate the way people think quite successfully. Katrina Tam, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Every time anyone backed down and conceded to Trump, he's come back for more later. Every time anyone stands up to him, he backs down. You're absolutely right, Katrina Tam. It's why we need to stand up to him as well. And also, look at this. We've just hit 10 out of 10 super chats for the target, for the goal, which means 3, 2, 1, confetti! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Confetti. And there you go. Mr. Tis, can I remind people that most such pensions meant you had to work 40 years to get a pension worth half your final salary. Most do not clock up 40 years. Yep, okay, but they still existed then. They don't exist now. In effect, we're training Trump, like some people I know whose dog has a penchant for stealing things and running off. So they chanced on the amazing stratagem of giving him cheese. Doesn't that make dogs shit everywhere? He scored poorly on his armed services vocational aptitude test. He's too stupid for the army. Yeah, bone spurs? Are you talking about Trump? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to go over to the papers now quickly because obviously I've rabbited on like a rabbit, like a rampant rabbit. Ooh, hang on. That's not the right expression. For far too long. So I'm just going to get this going here on the screen. Oh, shit. Sorry. Oh, no. Things have gone terrible now. Graham, they never reply. I've got further with some politicians than newspapers. Yeah, I'm sorry, mate. That really sucks. Yeah, that really does suck. I'm sorry, man. Hang on. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Here we go. Ah, finally. Jesus, got there in the end. There we go. Okay, thanks very much, Ivan. I'm sorry that you don't get reply off the papers. I'm guessing they have fucking priorities about whatever. I don't know. Benny Larson. Hello. Hey, Graham, just catching up, but don't tell the Greenlanders what they should do. It's their choice regarding investments. They have been very apprehensive about pollution. I'm not telling the Greenlanders what to do at all. I'm telling the Americans to fuck off. It's completely different. I'm saying that if the EU wants to invest more money in Greenland, I'd be for that. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, the idea that America is going to be some boon for the people of Greenland, it's nonsense. They're going to go in and they're going to extract the resources like they did in Iraq, and they're going to leave a wasteland behind them. Once they've taken what they need, they're just going to leave a fucking wasteland, which is what they've done time and time again. Don't forget, America. Do you know the term banana republic? Hang on, let me go on to this. Let me go off on one. He went off again. Sorry. You know the term banana republic, right? This is when America went around the world, right? And if the banana growers wanted a bit more money, the American military would be sent in to these Central American countries, right, to kill civilians with guns. They'd go in to keep the price of bananas down by a few cents in America. And they're prepared to do that over fucking bananas. Just go and murder innocent women and children over bananas, to keep the price of bananas down in America. What are they prepared to do to get resources that they want? Rare earths. What they have done in the past to get hold of oil. So yeah, I think it should be up to the people of Greenland where they go next. But I certainly do not advise going in with Trump. Anyway, cost of Chancellor's U-turns is 8.2 billion, and analysis finds. I mean, this isn't the U-turns necessarily. It's like they've taken if the Chancellor had not U-turned on the warm homes allowance, if they hadn't U-turned on they hadn't really U-turned on it, but they haven't got rid of the 2-child benefit cap, they would have saved X amount of money. So it's a bit of a nonsense to say that the U-turns cost this. It's not government policy. Yeah, they could have saved 8.2 billion, but at the cost of children starving to death and old people freezing to death. So yeah, let's not do that. PM warns a downward spiral in US tariffs row. Starmer to give emergency Greenland speech. Yeah, that was his emergency speech this morning that we watched. That was what that's what he's like in an emergency. Could you imagine him in a real emergency, like the house is on fire? We need to get out. We've done some analysis, and it appears that looking at the spreadsheet of the graph that I have up here for you, I've made this graph that we should exit through the door forthwith, because this is what fire does. I'm going to explain now in detail the way that the fire spreads around the building and how that will hamper our efforts to actually leave the building should we leave it too late to actually... Oh, we're all dead. I used to work for a community association that had a mini farm with 2 goats. The nanny goat loved her buttered toast, says Chris. Aww. Harry, you're making me hungry with your cheese on toast. Oh, our cat loves cheese, says One Angry Pagan. Keep plugging away at politicos and celebs. Ivan, they're the ones journalists talk to and write about. Yeah. And politicians have more, they're more inclined to reply to you. I think because, especially if it's your own MP, they're kind of obliged to. They're supposed to be. If you've got a Tory MP or a fucker, good luck with that. But yeah, trade war looms with America as UK and EU unite against Trump's Greenland threat. And there's a story here in the Eye, which is a good news story. Water bosses face fines out of their own pockets for leaks and spillage spills. Reforms to water regulation due this week will make senior leaders more accountable. This could include personal penalties and even prison, following similar schemes in other sectors. Fucking brill. Fucking do it. Moving on. Fears Trump's tariffs will rip NATO apart, which I suppose the Express would really enjoy, because it's it's up fucking the arse of that dictator in Moscow. And we've got Emma Raducanu there. She was on the front cover of this paper as well for winning a second round match. Well done. Well done, Emma. That deserves to go on all the front pages of all the newspapers. I mean, maybe if you get into the quarters or the semis, or maybe if you win for a change, but I wonder why they keep putting pictures of this gorgeous young tennis player on the front cover of all the newspapers. I wonder why they do that. Anyway, talking of someone who's not bloody gorgeous or young anyway, we've got Donald Trump here. I'm going to just cover his face with butter. Because the likeness is uncanny, isn't it? Trump's Greenland madness, it says, blackmail, fury over tariffs threats as PM tells President he's wrong. UK united with Denmark. King urged to axe his US visit, which I think he should definitely do, because Trump is a creep and he doesn't deserve any accolades. I really, really hope. And look, I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm sorry. I wish it would, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I don't think that there's going to be a boycott of the World Cup, because the people running it are fucking evil, and they're up Trump's arse. I really doubt. I doubt it's going to make a big difference, honestly. Even if countries decide to boycott, I mean, we didn't boycott in Qatar, where 6,000 people died building the fucking stadiums. We didn't boycott in Russia. 4 years after they invaded Ukraine and annexed the Crimean Peninsula, and we're still fighting a war in Donbass and blowing up passenger planes out the fucking sky. We didn't boycott them. So yeah, the chances of a boycott of the American World Cup. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. I think maybe some countries might do this because they can't get in. There's like 15 countries that have been completely banned from America at the moment, and there's 75 countries that are facing visa restrictions. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to come of it, but there's so much money involved. And I always say, look at what the billionaires want. The billionaires want the World Cup to go ahead. But yeah, giving Trump any of these fucking gongs, giving him the fucking Peace Prize, giving him a state visit to the UK, all this stuff, it's like giving a toddler a toy. And they'll play with it for a little while and then they forget it exists. This guy's a fucking toddler. It's a petulant fucking child. Anyway, the Daily Fail here. NATO now heading for disaster in Trump row. I bet they were fucking getting themselves off when they were writing the headline. UK's official warning as EU aims £81 billion trade bazooka at America. In call, Starmer tells president he's wrong over tariff war threat. And Zoe Ball's lining the Nepo baby of Johnny Ball is setting herself up to be the new Strictly host, which is nice. Nice for some, isn't it? And then EU weighs up €93 billion retaliation for Trump's Greenland blackmail targeting NATO's allies is wrong. Said that again. And the hacking trial today, High Court battle today could have profound effects on the UK media. I sure hope so. Bez is there to cheer us up on Blue Monday. Reclaiming the tea break. This is an advert for Weetabix, I think. And then we've got Europe delivers a warning to Trump after tariff threat. And then finally, we've got the Financial Times. The sort of sensible one. Although the resolution of this is really low, so it's very, very hard to read. But I will try my best. I will endeavour. Like the guy from Morse. His first name was Endeavour, wasn't it? Bloody hell. He didn't go to a state comp. Okay, so we've got the Financial Times here. Oh, got a fucking advert. Piss off advert. Leverage for meetings at Davos. Hopes for White House climb down. NATO relationship at risk. EU capitals are considering hitting the US with €93 billion worth of tariffs or restricting American companies from the bloc's market in response to Donald Trump's threats to NATO allies opposed to his takeover of Greenland. And then we've got China seizes on wavering US influence to pour record sum into their Belt and Road initiative. And Europe's grip in the luxury goods industry is slipping. It is slipping away. My heart is broken as it slips away. I don't care. Anyway, so there were some other headlines here, but it keeps doing this thing where it will, it'll say that the page isn't responsive. It's all right. I'm playing a video game, but that's probably to do with Google Chrome just eating all the RAM. What are you doing, Google Chrome? I'm eating RAM. But yeah, they've got also credit quality fears spur exit from Wall Street funds. Private credit investors pulled more than $87 billion from some of the biggest funds on Wall Street in the final months of last year in jitters mounted over credit quality following the bankruptcies of First Brands and Tricolor. Rival to UN in prospect, the Board of Peace set up by Donald Trump to oversee Gaza will have a broader mandate that could allow it to rival the UN. To mediate in other global conflicts. I mean, we do need to restart the UN and think differently. We're locked in the world of 1945. We do need to change it. We do need to shake it up. But Trump is not the person to do that. It's like putting Hitler in charge of setting up the fucking League of Nations or the United Nations. Not a great idea. Syrian truce after clashes. So things are settling down in Syria, I hope. Europe drug prices drive. US pharmaceutical companies are stepping up their campaign for higher drug prices in Europe, which is something that Trump has been pushing for as well. Big trade blocs agree deal. EU chiefs and leaders of South America's Mercosur bloc have signed a long-awaited blockbuster trade deal after more than 25 years of talks, which is just phenomenal. They have that. We don't. We could have had that, but we don't. Why don't we? Because of the shit that is Nigel Farage and his Brexit party. Before that, the UKIP party, fucking UKIPers being arseholes. And before that, after that, the refuck fuckers, reformers, Tories in disguise. I mean, you know, I'm on an alternative. You've got to laugh at anyone now. It says, I want an alternative. I want something different. I'm going to vote for refuck. And you're just like, it's just Tories. It's just the Tories with a fucking different colour, you dickhead. Anyway, so I love Weetabix, but I can't eat it as it gives me crazy heartburn. Oh, God. Only took me 35 years to figure that out. Oh, no. Right, going now. Thanks for the show, Graham, and thank you for the amazing chat, says Chris C. See you later, Chris C. Zoe Ball, Nepo Baby, Johnny Ball, getting the foot up the celebrity ladder. Never! No, it's all talent. It's all pure talent. That's what it is. Do you know what, though? You see some Nepo Babies like Brooklyn Beckham who are fucking useless. You know, he's just shit at everything. He's shit at football, he's shit at photography. His parents tried to give him so many opportunities, you know, but he's absolutely shit at them. Well, he's just famous for being famous now, isn't he? That's kind of sad. You know, I mean, imagine being that shit. You can't even make it as a Nepo Baby. I almost feel sorry for him, but I don't because he's dead rich. So yeah, I'm going to head off now. So thanks very much for listening to me and listening to... Oh, sorry for subjecting you there to Keir Starmer as he rambled on for far too long. It was kind of painful to watch that, wasn't it? It's so boring. But I understand why he said what he said. I'm sorry, I do. You know, don't hate the player, hate the game. He's playing the cards he's been dealt, and the cards he's been dealt are fucking shite. He's got a fucking pair of twos. He hasn't got a fucking pair of twos. I wonder if any of the presidents has had so many nicknames. I don't think so, Andy. If you're a Nepo Baby, you don't need to do anything, says Andy. Yeah, I know. But his parents still managed to get him to fucking do the photography for a book and to like edit Harper's Bazaar magazine and to fucking go to Arsenal's fucking boot camp for footballers. I mean, you know, like that. Fucking hell. And he's fucking useless. I tell you what, leave him out, right? Leave him out, and people with actual talent could be given an opportunity to do that. I saw a video the other day, and it was a woman who had been to Durham University, and she was talking about the snobbishness in Durham University, because if you didn't go to private school, you're treated like shit, and because 37% of the student intake here in Durham went to private school, it's like the majority of people, and versus the minority, but the minority obviously treat the majority like shit, especially if you've got a regional accent, and if you went to a comp. You kind of got like the private schools they hang out in their own clique, and then you've got the grammar schools, which are kind of like middling, and then you've got the comp kids who get treated really badly, with lots of disrespect. But the woman telling us this was like, well, it didn't happen to me because I went to private school, but it happened to other people. So I'm going to make videos about how bad this is. Just like, why don't you give them your money? Because they're obviously fucking loaded. If your family could afford £30,000 a term to put you through posh school, how about you pay someone £30,000 a year to do videos on YouTube about on TikTok, YouTube about how shit the class system is? Who's not from the upper class? How about that? How about getting someone from Greenland to talk about Greenland? How about that? No, we don't want to hear from the people who are actually affected by this. We want to just make assumptions on their behalf. That's very strange. Anyway, can you link take us over to Reagan Elite? Ooh, I don't know. If Reagan Elite's allowed that, there's a thing that you've got to set up on your own channel to say that people can join your channel from their channel from your channel. And if you have tick that off, since Reagan Elite is one of our mods over here, it should come up, maybe. It's a couple of all shorts videos. Right. Yeah. Come on. In focus. Get in focus. Reagan Elite. Let's have a look. Good morning with Reagan Elite. Oh, yeah, I can do it. Brilliant. Okay, there you go. Save. Reagan Elite show is going to start in a minute. So if you'd like to join Reagan Elite over on Reagan Elite's channel, you're very welcome to do so. All you have to do is keep watching this channel and you'll be taken over there magically. I hope, if it works. Okay, so before I go, just want to say thank you for watching, and also thank you for the super chats. It's very kind of you. And I hope to see you tonight at 9 o'clock for Stateside with Scott Williams. And until then, until that moment, until we meet again, give us a like on the way out, would you? Would you give us a little like? Just a little likey? Just a wee little likey? Thank you. And also, if you're not subscribed, bloody well subscribe! Okay, that is all. Until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.